Let's continue, though, with the theme of this story. Hezbollah today launching missiles and drones towards Israel, which responded with sweeping airstrikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut in Lebanon, housing senior militants. Meanwhile, Iran's Red Crescent Society says at least 555 people have been killed in strikes by the United States and Israel since Saturday morning. Let's get the latest now from the United States. Our correspondent Simon Marks is live for us there. Simon, good evening to you. Our time. We know that in the last few minutes, the President of the United States has been talking. Has he said anything about this war? Any key pointers that could tell us how long this would go on for?
Well, we got a bit of new information, Xoli. This was the first time President Trump has addressed his war on Iran from the White House itself. He was presiding over handing out the Medal of Honor to 3 military veterans. But before he went into that ceremony, he began by making a series of comments about what is taking place in Iran. He described America's military operation as our last best chance to strike and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by an Iranian regime that he described as sick and sinister. He listed America's objectives in this conflict as destroying Iran's missile capabilities, including their ballistic missile capacity, which the president said was soon going to be able to reach U.S. shores, annihilating the Iranian Navy, ensuring that what he called the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain nuclear weapons, and ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund and direct terrorists outside Iran's borders, by which, of course, he means Hezbollah and the country's other proxies. What was interesting in all of this is what the president did not say. He did not urge the Iranian people to rise up and take control of their own country. He did not refer, as his Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, did a couple of hours earlier here in Washington, to the Iranian government as the former regime. He didn't use the word former to suggest that it had fallen from power. And he didn't really provide Americans with any certainty about how long this conflict is going to go on for. He said that they were ahead of schedule. They had thought in their military planning that this conflict might last for 4 to 5 weeks. But he didn't explain how long American lives and the lives of allied forces are going to be at risk in that battlefield theatre, nor did he explain at what point he will know when the military operation is wrapped up. And there was absolutely no indication in the president's comments, and we haven't heard any indication all weekend long, as to what his end game is. What is the plan for the day after? This is still a president very much extemporizing following his decision on Friday night to authorize what he described as massive military combat operations that are still ongoing against Iran.
Simon, very, very strange behavior from President Trump in the last few hours, going backwards to the weekend. And I say that based on this, that there is this massive operation that he is conducting in the Middle East. This is someone who wants to prop himself up whenever there is an opportunity to address members of the media. And we know that on weekends, he spends that in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. When he returns on that flight, there are members of the media that usually are transported with him. He didn't talk to them. Instead, there was a recording of him. So he has been somewhat media shy. At the same time, U.S. Congress has not been addressed about the objectives of this war, what the plan is. And I wonder, Simon, whether you're able to juxtapose tonight for us whether Americans are any wiser about the purpose of this war from a president who said when he was re-elected that he will not be sending Americans to any war outside of America. In fact, he has no interest in engaging in a war.
Yeah, I mean, we are a touch wiser in the sense that in his statement at the White House for the first time, he presented all of his objectives together, those four objectives: destroying Iran's missile capabilities, annihilating Iran's navy, ensuring that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, and ensuring that the regime cannot continue funding proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon. In terms of his engagements with the media, he hasn't taken questions directly from reporters at all since Saturday in the early hours of the morning when he announced that the combat operation was underway. But he has made a series of one-on-one phone calls to hand-picked reporters here in Washington. One of them went to the CNN anchor Jake Tapper. He told Jake Tapper that everything is going very well. We haven't even started hitting them hard, he said of Iran. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon. Then he told the Fox News anchor Brett Baer that he was very pleased with the press conference that had been held here this morning by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, partly because he told Brett Baer they looked like they had come out of central casting. And then he told the New York Post, a reporter from the New York Post, that he isn't ruling out boots on the ground in Iran. I don't have the yips, he said, with respect to boots on the ground. Like every other president says, there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. Now, all of this is going down catastrophically with his own Make America Great Again, America First base. We've seen a whole host of leading America First MAGA influencers taking to social media all weekend long and accusing President Trump of reneging on his 2024 election campaign promise not to get American service personnel entangled up in far-off, forever wars that could become a quagmire. And he's facing criticism, even from friends of his. Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News host, a prominent podcaster, someone who was at the White House talking to President Trump only last week, said over the weekend that this decision to invade Iran is completely disgusting and evil. So he's got an enormous sales job on his hand, not just to Americans writ large, with only 1 in 4 of them saying to pollsters over the weekend that they support the attack that killed the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, but particularly with his own base, which is accusing him of betrayal.
Let's end the conversation, Simon, on something that you mentioned in your earlier response about the regime in Iran and President Trump being careful tonight about whether that regime has been toppled. But the Times of Israel has been reporting today, this is an article that dropped at 11 a.m., and the headline says, Iran's exiled crown prince touts himself as future leader. Is this what Iranians want? I'm asking you this question because President Trump has not been shy to intimate that they want regime change in Iran. Could this be the person that they might likely back?
Well, he's not the person the Americans want. I can tell you we are very familiar with the Crown Prince here in Washington, D.C., because he lives here. And in fact, on many occasions, he has sat in this very chair, broadcasting to various international news channels, including some run by Iranian exiles here in the United States. The State Department has kept him at more than arm's length. Indeed, at the World Economic Forum in Davos just a few weeks ago, the Crown Prince was there. And at one point, Senator Lindsey Graham, a prominent supporter of President Trump's foreign policy, Republican of South Carolina, who was in the room, was asked by the moderator, is this man, the Crown Prince, the guy that you want running Iran? And Lindsey Graham didn't hesitate and immediately said no. and it's up to the Iranians to decide who should be running Iran. I mean, the Crown Prince has much closer ties to the Israeli government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu than he does to the White House and President Donald Trump. And that may be why there are some Iranians who are enthused about the Crown Prince, but lots of Iranians who have questions about him. But as to what kind of government President Trump envisages in Iran, I mean, at the moment, his stated plan and hope is to encourage some kind of Pollyanna-style get-together by Iranian people, including the families of tens of thousands of demonstrators who were reportedly shot down in cold blood by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. All of those Iranians are, according to President Trump, going to come and find a way of having common cause with the Revolutionary Guard, with members of Iran's security forces, its army and its police, and then together they are all going to find, in some kumbaya moment, a way of creating a new governing dispensation in Iran without, according to the current plan, putting any American boots on the ground. I mean, how all that works out, given the enmity that stretches back decades between so many Iranians and the security forces that have kept that government in power, is completely opaque and unknown to anybody here in Washington.
Simon Marks, thank you very much indeed for that update live for us in Washington. It is a story we're going to continue watching for you. We know that in Iran, 40 days of mourning have been declared.